So, but let me know if you change your mind and want to say hello. So the work that I want to teach you is really born out of something that I was told over 30 years ago by a Buddhist teacher. And it's taken me really this long to bring it all together to a practical way of dealing with what was arising for me. So in short, when I first encountered Tibetan Buddhism in 1989 in Copenhagen, a teacher told me that who we really are is the projector, i.e. the light, the infinite life source within. But what we're experiencing is the content of the mind constantly being projected out. So what we perceive as our life coming toward us is, from the Buddhist perspective, our own movie projecting from us. And he said the only job we really have is to clear the mind, all the content of the mind. And then later out of the Yoga Sutras, the verbiage there would be all the rittis, all the thoughts and all the samskaras, those are the deeper grooves and impressions and memories, project out and are perceived as though they're coming at us. So in Buddhism, in this particular kind of Buddhism, it was the Kagyu lineage, they spend an enormous amount of time visualizing a certain deity called the Dorje Semba, secreting, if you will, from his heart a nectar that goes through your body, because the body is expressed, I mean, the mind is expressed through the body, and this nectar slowly cleans it by simply being aware of your body. So in a way, even though they didn't call it that, it's essentially a body scan, which is not so different from the Vipassana meditation tradition, where that's really what you do for 10 days straight, is sit and feel your body, feel your body. Now, what is it to feel your body? It is to become present. And in yoga, the definition of yoga, the Yoga Sutra definition of yoga is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. It's yoga is the cessation of the fluctuation of the mind. So if you really are the infinite light, the divine connection, the Purusha, we would say in yoga, and the mind is the constantly fluctuating, rotating thoughts that we're constantly caught up in. This is my little mascot that I found and that I love. So this is like, there's a little Buddha inside of here, but all the little snowflakes is like the thoughts that are constantly twirling around us, and we see life through that. You've heard the saying, we don't see people as they are, we see them as we are. So if we perceive people through all of these experiences and thoughts and feelings that we harbor without knowing that they're unique to us, we're not seeing clearly. So the first step in any spiritual practice, even Christianity, would say, be still and know that I am. That the stillness is the cessation of all of this, and then we can begin to experience who we really are. But most of the times as humans, we're all in this state and we're reacting to each other from this state. And that's, you know, kind of a hellish experience, really, because much of what's going on here, the stuff that's stuck, are the negative stories that were imprinted on us when we were too young to not have it mean what it felt like it meant, which is often something to the effect of, I'm not loved, I'm not safe, I don't belong. So when I started working with people with meditation, so often I would get the feedback that I'm sitting there, I'm becoming peaceful, more grounded in my body, and then I feel really anxious. Then I start to feel these anxious places within. And that was true for me as well. And I remember up through my 20s and 30s, I just turned 50, how I would beg, I would pray, I would take herbs, I would do anything to just lose that knot in my stomach that could still be ignited in certain situations. And for me, it had to do with abandonment. And that would come up, and it didn't seem like my reaction to something that was perceived as abandonment, that wasn't really that threatening, could still grip me physically as something that would cause me to not breathe right, or feel tight in my chest, or feel a knot in my stomach. And that was sort of a source of embarrassment. Like, how is it that I'm so calm and peaceful, and I've done so much work, and in so many ways I feel so connected to my higher self, and yet I keep drawing in situations where I have those same feelings come up. So I did a lot of work with like Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, trying to identify what are the thoughts that I should just not have, and then I'll feel better. And that's really, those of you that may have done work with Byron Katie, who's taught humanity a lot, But nevertheless, it seems to be that the message in that work, at least how I perceived it, was I just have to change my thought, challenge the thought, and then change it. And then I'll be like, oh, you know, actually, he or she isn't this bad person. There's these three good things about her. In fact, I can be bad too. And then I could go on my way and know that my mind had just created this story. But that didn't address the feeling in the body. So what I assert is that it doesn't start at the thought level. It starts at a physical, energetic level, and it's a very real, tangible knot that is present in the energy field of the body. And that the more we meditate and the more we start to penetrate the physical body with awareness, with presence, to yoke, right? That's another definition of yoga. To yoke is to fully unite, integrate higher self, spirit, infinity, us, with the temporary vessel of the body. And the more we do that, the more we can be an effective vessel in the world for our spirit to play its tune and be part of the, you know, helper of mankind. But we bump into, when we come fully in, we bump into where the knots are. And then people do one of three things in my experience. They either lash out and want that person who seemingly triggered that place within to act differently. Change who you are so I don't have to feel this. And that can sometimes be reasonable. I mean, you may have a partner who is unkind in a certain way, but why are you with that partner in the first place? And this is what I started noticing in my coaching work, that people would tend to draw in and be drawn to the relationship that were the least likely to do that thing necessary to never feel that. It was actually the opposite. We tend to be drawn into a situation that will actually activate that trigger within that makes us feel those negative feelings. And then we're in this endless battle to hand out manuals to other people for how they can change who they are so we don't have to feel that. Yeah, so that's number one. The second thing I would see is that people would first lash out and then numb out. That's so typical. It's really socially acceptable to go have a whiskey if you're upset, right? I mean, even in the movies, the cowboy after a hard day has something to drink. Alcohol is super acceptable. And then there's a whole array of other things that are acceptable. And even if I spent my 20s kind of eliminating all of what you would think of as the numbing agents, and then I did a Vipassana retreat in my 30s and thought I had eliminated all of those and it wouldn't be that hard. And it was really, really hard. And do you know what I missed? I missed chatting with girlfriends. Like when I would have an issue come up, I would talk. Connection. I'm not alone, right? I couldn't be with the aloneness. I needed the connection. That seems very innocent. But in fact, I was bypassing that work of fully coming in and being with myself. I also missed my phone. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say I missed picking up my phone and checking on messages or what have you. And then I missed sugar way more than I realized I'm addicted to sugar, or that's one of the ways I soothe myself. That was probably the big three ones, but those are so innocent that we don't even think of them as classic addictions, right? If you are an alcoholic, there's a program for that. But all those little ways in which we don't stay with ourselves when we feel triggered are all ways where we lose that opportunity to be with ourselves in the way someone else won't. Yeah. So what I found was that when I am triggered, or when a student is triggered, if instead of making a story and then going to work, you could just stay with the image of the movie projector running up to the silver screen and trying to erase something or fix something up there, you pull the projection back and see where is the actual physical sensation of discomfort in my body and what's really here. And then you can start to understand when that was put in place and what is the story that was put in place that continues to play out, and be with it. And it's that the key of this whole work. And I'm going to take you through it. I don't want to talk much more because the experience is far better than the chatting about it. But the being with, the being present with is the healer. When we become fully present, we are, depending on what spiritual tradition you have as your frame of reference, we are the divine, we are the highest self, we are great spirit, we are Holy Spirit when we're fully present and still with. If any of you have cats or pets, have you noticed how they want to be on what you are putting your presence on? Right? And what is that? I think if we were not so dense and dull, we would perceive that sparkling presence that we're bringing to it. And they want some of that. Those of you that meditate, and if you have pets, when you slow down enough, they want to come be with that. Right? And I mean, I have my older cat, it takes her a while because it takes me a while. But when I'm sitting down in this state, I'm not that interesting because I'm really not that present. It's not that nice of an energy, but it takes a while. And I would say it takes longer now than it did 30 years ago because of how the world is to get to that stillness. Then the cat wants to just be with it. And you know what? I mean, it's so fine tuned that if I then start rittying again, the thoughts arise again. And I'm like, and they're usually some sort of judgment, right? Something we want to fix, and is often someone else that need to change or something. That energy, just on the thought level, cat doesn't want to be around that. That's not presence. Yeah. So we try, I would say, in a futile way to fix what's wrong with us on the mental level, but it has to come in to the present level within the body. Yeah. So any questions or comments about that before I want to take you through a meditation that will kind of show this in a more direct way? Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Yeah, I really connect with what you said about the animals, the cats especially. And I have 3 cats. 2 of them are half brothers and the other one is an older female. They all have different personalities, but when I finally get really still and sit, I'll sometimes end up with all 3 of them either on me or right next to me.
Yeah.
And then I'll have the thought, oh, this would be a great selfie of sitting with the 3 cats. And if I think about reaching for my phone and fooling around with it to get it, they don't like it. And it's like, I've lost the picture because I'm thinking about something else instead of.
I completely know what you mean. It is that fine tuned. If you're journaling and you're really there and you're fully present, you're pouring your heart out through the heart chakra of the hand. Does the cats also want to be on that? Right? And how do we know? Like plants grow better when we just give them our attention. We know it when we walk into a house where there's attention. It's as though your presence spiritualize matter, right? And that would be another way to define yoga too, that to yoke is to bring our spirit self to our matter self and transform it. So you might say the knots within that we all carry, we call them samskaras in yoga, they need to be spiritualized. They need to be bathed in presence. But we tend to do the opposite because they flare up and they get really defensive and they try desperately to fix whatever is out there, which is often some replay of some earlier trauma where we were not loved and safe. And then it's almost like we short circuit the process that really needs to happen, which is the complete holding and presence of that within ourselves. But as the breath tightens and we can't bring breath, in my first language, breath and spirit is the same word. And that's true in like the Spanish, Latin languages as well. More recently, I found out that Atman in yoga, Atman is the individual divinity, if you will. And in German, the verb for breathing is Atman. So it all kind of crisscrosses with who we really are. Our essence is spirit, breath, self. And the body, when the body perceives danger, in yoga we would say abhinivesha, fear of death, which is essentially what it is. If we are not loved and don't belong and are not safe, we face death, right? On that reptilian level, that's what's being activated. And if we could do lab work in the moment of being triggered, we would see blood pressure going up. We would see cortisol in the blood. We might see adrenaline in the blood. We might see histamines in the blood. It's very quick. And I have a nurse that just went through the 8-week program, and he's in urgent care. And he told me that he had a patient that was all, totally showing stress symptoms in every way on this monitor. And he just sat with her and guided her through deep breathing. That was all. And that's all it took for those vitals to start to mellow out. And it was within minutes that things shifted physiologically when she felt safer and when she brought breath back in. Yeah? Okay. So unless you have comments or questions about that, I think we should begin the practice, because we don't want this to become talking to the head. We want this to be an experience. So just put your notebooks aside. You'll use them in a second. But for now, just put them down and sit as upright as you can. See if you can find the most upright spine that you're physically capable of. And even if you don't have to lean on something, then I would say come away from leaning. Yeah. Good to have something under your bottom if you have it, or if your feet on the floor, that's fine too. But if you can find the root, the sit bones, the tailbone, the grounding of the root, feel the pressure, the connection there between your butt and whatever you're sitting on. And then close your eyes and feel the lift up through the spine to the top of the head. And for a moment, bring to mind a plant, a dandelion, for example. The grounding root and the lifting, rising stalk of the plant, and then the crown of the plant. And what is it that compels the plant to lift and rise? Something within the seed, but also the light pulling on it. You've seen maybe how a dandelion can crack through asphalt. How is it possible? So that immense spiritual energy of lifting and rising through the crown and sinking and connecting through the root. Now relax the jaw. You might even let the jaw open a little bit. Let your belly become softer. Notice any superficial tension in the body where you might just let it go. Let your intuition guide you to where things are a little tense. Let the little muscles around the eyes soften. And then draw all your awareness to the inside of the nose. The simple feeling of air moving. See if you can even pick up the subtle sound of the breath. And keep that awareness on the breath, the sound, the feeling in the nose. And at the same time, bring awareness into the belly below the belly button. And most people carry some degree of tension, protection. So let that be okay. But just like you might soothe a child that's a little tense, see if you can bring presence here and simply say, it's okay. Relax now. Invite the breath into the belly. Now become aware of your hands. Just notice how you placed your hands, maybe on your legs, maybe in your lap. Notice the palm of the hands. Notice how noticing is presencing, is becoming present and aware. So let that degree of presence start right in the center of the palms. And simply notice what presence in the hands feel like. What does the energy of presence feel like? And does it increase as you sit here and simply be with your hands? And now whatever that sensation, energy of presence in the palms feels like, now let that expand into all 10 fingers. Feel into the life force present here. In yoga, we would say it's the prana, life force. Prana is also breath. In Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy, the qi, spirit. Yogananda likened it to low-grade electricity. And stay with the hands, sensing and feeling into how life is expressing through the hands. Vibrantly alive. Just the hands, still noticing the breath. There's lots of other sensations in the body, but right now the main focus is on the hands, the sound of the breath, the feeling of the stream of air inside the nose. The nature of the mind is to jump around, form thoughts, go places. Notice that, and then gently notice your capacity to just be with the breath and the sensation in the hands. Almost like you're being nailed into the present moment through the hands, through the breath. Now see if you can maintain that degree of presence in the hands while including the feet. Start with the heels and now the soles of the feet. The balls of the feet. Still noticing the breath and the hands. Now the tops of the feet. And all 10 toes. Let it be okay. It's like turning on the little lights of awareness in every little cell of the feet and the hands. And all it takes, but not so easy, is staying present and aware of the hands and the feet. And now play with that energy of presence, the sensation of life force in the hands and the feet, however it shows up. Allow that now to expand gradually from the hands to include the forearms, elbows, upper arms, and shoulders. So like you just turn the lights on in both arms from the shoulders through the fingertips. And hold that. And do the same for the legs from the feet through the lower legs, the knees, and the thighs, the buttocks, the lower belly. And now flood that energy of presence into the torso. From the lower belly, through the belly button, solar plexus, stomach, the whole of the chest, lower back, mid back, upper back, through the back of the neck, the sides of the throat, the front of the throat. And now the whole inside of the torso. Without needing to know exactly where your organs are. Just have a sense of being present inside the torso. So more aware from the neck down now. And now the chin, the lips. Allow the jaw to drop a little bit. We tend to hold some habitual tension here. Come back to the sensation of breath inside the nose. The back of the head, both ears, the wrinkles and folds of the ears, the whole of the scalp. So now you are somewhat present in the whole energy field of the body. See if you can perceive the whole energy field of the body simultaneously while breathing calmly. And now if you resonated with anything I wrote about this work, chances are you have found yourself triggered by someone, something. So I invite you to pick a recent situation where you were triggered. And let's not pick some more abstract political issue that's not deeply personal within your own four walls. Something that's a little closer. Shall we say, maybe not the red zone, but at least the orange zone. Someone who's doing something that makes you feel some version of fear. And just bring to mind a recent interaction. Like a little movie, replay it now. This is what the mind is good at, showing you what was said. Who is it? And then feel into the body now. And focus your awareness on the torso from the throat through the heart center, solar plexus, lower belly. And as you recall a recent triggered situation, that probably is not the first time you've had some version of this situation present itself. Where does the energy field of your body seem a little contracted, if not a lot contracted? And try to stay inside the torso for this one. There might be other parts of the body that are also reacting to the memory of this situation. But notice if it's showing up more in the throat, the chest, the solar plexus, or the lower belly. And find the most contracted place, the least comfortable part of the body. And then if you're comfortable doing so, put your hand right over the top of that. And let the gesture of the hand, you can also just do it in your mind's eye if you prefer. Let that be a greeting. Inwardly say, hello. I feel you. I'm here and I notice. And then ask yourself, how old is this feeling? And within this contraction lies all the other times when this has surfaced. So simply ask, how old is this feeling? How far back do you remember this feeling? Let any images, memories, pictures be okay. And you can also let it be okay if there's not anything concrete coming, but simply a willingness to be present with this part of yourself that is contracting, is in fear. Simply be with this place. You can release your hand if you want to, but stay with this sensation and be really interested in how this energy lives in the energy field of your body. Let the belly relax so the breath can flow. And whether you had any prior memories, indications of how old this is, how far back in your current life history this has been showing up for you. We'll spend a moment simply being with this place. Releasing any responsibility that we pin on someone else to help us not feel this way. Noticing whether we want to run, lash out, numb out. What is the thing that we tend to do when we notice this place within? And then just for now, in this little circle that we're in together, exploring this, instead of doing any of that just now, we're just being with it and noticing. Being as present with and deeply interested in and loving toward this place. And in case you're interested, my cat has just plopped down next to me, so I must be doing something right. Think of your presence, your willingness to feel into this place just for a moment as the sun shining on, warming up an ice cube. Depending on just how cold, how large this ice cube is, you might be melting the mirror surface. You might go a little deeper. But you're giving yourself the deepest of gifts right now, simply being with this. Just stay with it another minute or so. Holding this place energetically, like you would a small scared child, not shaming it, not pushing it away, not giving it a timeout, just holding it. Him, her, they. And something that has been ignored, pushed down many, many times, when we first decide to turn toward it and embrace it and feel it to heal it, the initial experience can be that it grows a million times bigger. That it's something within that is finally being acknowledged. This hurts. This part of me is scared. This part of me does not feel safe. This part of me feels at the mercy of someone else. And someone I'm not even sure has my back. Continue to breathe deeply into the belly. And now ever so slowly, like you're zooming back out, start to embrace in your awareness, include in your awareness, the whole energy field of the body again. And since you were just there, it might be a little easier once more to feel the hands and the feet, and the arms and the legs, the whole of the torso, the face and the head. And now before we come out, take a moment to draw in again in your awareness the triggering moment that you chose to use for this exercise. And with eyes softly open, look down at the floor in front of you and stay with the body. But sort of check in and see if the intensity of the trigger, the fear that arises when you consider this run-in with someone else, is it the same? Is it worse? Has it softened and lessened a little bit? And then take a couple of deeper breaths. Notice where your body might have tensed up a little bit during this exercise. And then slowly raise your gaze back to our little circle or square. And come back in. Yeah. So unmute yourself if you muted yourself. And I'll briefly lay out what we would typically do with this information in the course. We'd be very aware of where it's showing up in the body. And so do on your piece of paper just a little diagram of a little chubby Michelin man. And just see if you can pinpoint where that was the worst. And then just draw a little heart around it, just symbolic of sending that love and a commitment to directing love toward this place that is scared rather than sticking it in the dungeon. And then next to that on your piece of paper, write down any memories that came, however random, however not pertaining it might seem, anything that came to mind as we sort of checked in with that spot to see if that was a known feeling that has shown up in other parts of your life. However insignificant, you don't have to share this with anybody. You don't have to accuse anybody. You're just willing to let whatever arises arise. And then sometimes if we haven't communicated much with those most fearful parts of ourselves, it's almost like befriending a wild animal. It might be plenty that this part of us was willing to kind of show itself a little bit. So that could be enough. But if there is some sort of a message there with what is that story that was put in place, if you will, whatever has happened in the past that felt similar to that, what is that? Is it some version of I'm not loved, I'm not safe, I don't belong? Is it, I had a client the other day and his was I'm not worth getting to know, which of course is a version of I'm not loved, right?
Wow.
And just consider for a moment whether that story is one of your filters through which you perceive a situation. And remember, we're not letting anybody off the hook who hurt us, you know, or let that be okay. We're really not dealing with that. There will be another time and a place to decide, you know, what needs to happen out there. This is the inside job portion of what we play out there. How do we see something through a certain lens? And might we experience something beyond what's actually there, so that we're experiencing what's here plus what's already in the energy field. Yeah. Good. And then in this incredibly short time we have together, so it's almost a playful version of the work. But consider for a moment just letting that other person off the hook. What would it be like to release if there was a person, either present day or former, that we hold responsible? And by holding someone else responsible, we're essentially giving them the power for us to feel better, right? Mm-hmm. So you could say releasing them from that responsibility is another word for saying taking that power back. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to work on my interior sense of peace, because my willingness and my decision to be fully with myself and not seeking source outside myself. Now you may be a jerk or you may be wonderful, but either way, the source within me is holding me fully safe. So even if it's a very brief little action within, consider from that perspective saying, I forgive you. And forgiving does not mean I condone, or there is an accountability, or there's this doesn't have some sort of consequences, but I'm not willing to wait for you to change for me to be happy. Because that outer whatever stimulus, triggering factor may never change, right? And it could even be that as long as we are not willing to hold our own samskara in love and presence, they are like specks on the movie that we're playing, and they will keep seemingly come at us as though we're this victim of the same story over and over again. So this would be the yogic way of saying, how do I clear this within myself and start to notice how things shift on the outside? I'm not saying there's nothing to be done on the outside, but I'm saying there's a huge amount to be done on the inside that we tend not to do. So we're almost at time. So I want to just do a brief little drop in and see how this landed with you. Charles, do you want to start?
Yeah, that was definitely something I would want to do again because, you know, as in any kind of meditation, the mind is filled with all those little transient thoughts and then we get distracted. So I want to keep coming back. It's definitely something I'd like to work through again. I'm looking forward to getting the link to the recording so I can listen to this a few more times. And yeah, I really appreciate this. I'm so glad to have stayed connected with you through Facebook and email so that I can learn about this and reconnect with you. And I'm looking forward to doing more. So
thank you, Charles. I really appreciate that. And yes, I love this very practical application of the yogic methods. You know, it becomes very real when it's about what's happening. Think about how many spiritual practitioners throughout history went off to convents and monasteries and ashrams and caves. It's not that hard to become aware of your divine light and feel enlightened if you're never triggered, right?
Right.
If nobody pokes at your samskaras, you might think you don't have them. You know what I mean? So it's sort of the next level of the yogi's journey is to not be isolated from life's triggers, but actually meeting them. And that's the next level of cleaning of the energy field, if you will.
Yeah.
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 Hey, Meta,
staying at peace in the midst of chaos.
Oh, this was really good. I noticed I'm kind of in this period of my life right now, where I'm just like, I got rid of my smartphone because I just don't want to sit on it anymore in this pandemic. And I just needed to go inward. So I got a flip phone and then I got rid of my internet and I come to St. Paul Athletic Club, use the phone and I like the technology. And I'm basically just like trying to achieve like a higher state of consciousness. And so just to give you the rundown on what happened is like a few months ago, I was really uprooting some samskaras and I was experiencing a lot of anger, but I moved past that. And I just, like in combination with taking CBD and just, I mean, I already told you that I tested as very like happy and stuff. I just like spend my days in complete bliss. Like I just sit there like basically all day and do nothing, just in absolute bliss. Like I just love it. Like, and so we were doing this meditation and like, I was feeling that same feeling throughout the whole meditation. I may not have always been like totally conscious of what was being said, but I was just kind of in this frequency of bliss. But I noticed that when you moved, like we were talking about the solar plexus, I think I just got like kind of uncomfortable and I just like scratched my head and just kind of like moved for a little bit. And it just made me realize, the movement in itself just is an indication that something doesn't feel totally comfortable with my gut. And I had to do some physical therapy for my conversion disorder. And she said, my trainer said that the people that have experienced trauma tend to have issues with their gut and like they have issues like doing core and stuff like that. But like I escaped a sex trafficking ring in 2015. So the anger that I was experiencing was from that. Like I just experienced a lot of anger for a while and it just basically has gradually been going away. But now I'm really realizing that it's like I got to be trying to get a better mind-body connection with the core. That's kind of what I got out of this.
Yeah, good. And I think that's true for most people, that's kind of the scary spot for many people to be in that part of ourselves. How about you, Dan?
I have to go.
Bye, Charles. See you soon.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, I have another meeting.
That's no worries. I just want to check in with Dan before we
go. No, I need to go in a moment too. Yeah, but that was really really useful. I think a lot of the kind of like numbing things you were saying earlier kind of resonated with me, and it's just kind of good to be able to do something like this and get much more in touch with that.
Yeah, good. Did you notice any reduction in reactivity when you first thought of the triggering situation and when you thought of it after doing the practice?
Yeah, no, that was notable. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I do the practice every single time I guide anyone else through it. So I always take an actual triggering situation, and every single time it's just a little less threatening. It's a little more like, okay, it's not such a big deal. I'm fine, you know. Yeah. That doesn't mean you suddenly think everything's okay, but the bodily reaction is just calm down a little bit. Yeah, good. All right, well, that's what I got for you. Thank you so much for participating. Hannah, if you want to stay behind and say hello, you can. Otherwise, we'll check in with you some other time. And I'll send you guys out some options for doing this work. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. It was good to see you.
See you
Thank you.
later. Bye.
Bye.
Hopefully I see you at St. Paul Athletic Club.
I'm thinking about canceling my membership. I feel
Oh,
like
really?
I'm doing it enough.
Oh, really? Oh, that's too bad. I was so happy to run into you that one day.
I know, but I'm a little nervous about the COVID thing, and it still
Oh.
feels like a lot of money.
There's honestly not a lot of people here. You probably know that, but
Well, that's why I decided
yeah,
to join,
okay.
because it's like the most deserted club
Yeah.
in town, So maybe I should go down and run today and get my money's worth. But since it's been better weather, I have a trampoline that I go jump on.
Oh, really fun. Oh my
Yes,
God.
I love it. I'm like a little kid. I mean, it's like I belly laugh when I'm on that thing. And then it's really fun. And then I also have
Cool.
walked quite a bit. Yeah, I'm really getting to know my new neighborhood. I'm in Dayton's Bluff, so not really far from SPAC.
Oh,
Actually.
nice. By Metro?
Yeah, kind of by Metro, exactly.
Okay,
That's
I'm
just
gonna start
down
up
the street
there
from
again this
Metro.
summer.
What's that?
I'm gonna start up there again this summer.
Oh, you are, so you'll be right in my
Yeah,
neighborhood.
basically everybody, like all my care team says to go to school, so I
Yeah,
should do it.
it's such a beautiful campus. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
quite
it is a nice
beautiful
campus. That's a
over
nice
here.
area. I like Dayton's Bluff.
I do too. It's a little, I've been hearing
I think
gunshots at
it's
night more
like,
often than I like and stuff like that. So I had to kind of get used to that a little bit, but
okay.
fundamentally I feel safe.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that for East St. Paul, I think that's actually probably the safer area, right?
I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, houses here are half price of the rest of St. Paul, so.
Yeah.
I have another friend who just bought nearby, so I also feel like more and more people that want to take care of their homes are moving in. So you see, more and more houses kind of where people are actually taking care of their yards. So there's a lot of garbage in the streets. That's one thing I really don't like.
Well, the defund the police probably isn't. I don't think it's taking over St. Paul really. Minneapolis is not doing too good, but I mean,
yeah, it's kind of its own little thing over here.
there's just a lot of crime going on right now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, downtown St. Paul has gotten kind of icky. Where are you staying downtown? Are you right there by?
I live a block from St. Paul Athletic Club, so I'm on the better side. But I always hear people for years. I've heard people fighting outside my window and stuff like that. I'm on the 6th floor, but like that central station is just it's can be kind of sketchy.
And it could be so fun. I mean, it looks like an old European fun place,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would wish for St. Paul to get some sort of revival down the road, but it's sort of going in the opposite direction right now.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good. All right, I have another meeting too, so I'm gonna run, but thank you so much for joining.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. You take care. Bye-bye.